In this episode, I'm interviewing my good friend and mentor from Antler, Anh Hoang. He was such an inspiration to me, and I hope that anyone listening to this can gain some inspiration from him as well. Ang, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Lee. It's my pleasure. Thanks for the invitation. I'm super happy to be here.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm super excited to interview you today. I learned a lot from you about obviously my whole startup journey and what I should do and what sh I shouldn't do. I really appreciate all the time you spent after hours, like chatting with me, those little talks that we've had, in between sessions. But you had to have started from somewhere. So what I'd like to do is start off with your story, especially your startup story, because I think that's a very interesting part of your journey.
Sure. Absolutely. Let us rewind on how kind of things started out, right? Maybe just first of all, I never imagined that I would be working in the kind of tech scene and the startup scene. I kind of just fumbled into it. But it kind of fits my personality and it makes sense once I was in that space because I've always been kind of this entrepreneurial, have this drive in me since I was a kid. And since, growing up, because my parents, they used to run their own business, right? Used to have like small grocery stores back in Sweden and also restaurants as well. So a lot of hard work, kind of working for themselves. My parents didn't have much of a choice, right? Because as immigrants moving to Sweden, not having an education, it's very hard to kind of integrate and get a job. So the only kind of, way to make a living is to do something yourself.
Mhm.
And by seeing that, it kind of shaped me and what I wanted to do personally as well. So that's kind of how I fumbled into it, right? And always wanted to do something, always I wanted to have impact. And my first proper job in the startup was actually with my former boss, Eric, as well.
Mm.
So I ended up in Vietnam because just, through a quick conversation with him on LinkedIn. And this was when he was kind of doing his fashion e-commerce called Top Mode back in 2017. And that was my first exposure and experience with startups, right? Something it has just been up and running for 2 years, if I remember correctly. We're
Mm.
raising a buck and trying to find more product market fit. I had no idea about startups then, right?
Mm.
But yeah, and then I was there for a while, and unfortunately, we had to shut down shop after 3 months. It was an internship as well, I want to say.
Ah, I see.
Um, and that was how I kind of came to Vietnam and moved back to Vietnam.
Mm.
Uh, but then one thing led to the other, and I went to another kind of, this was not a startup, but almost in the same sphere as a venture builder
Mm.
called Fram, also founded by a Swedish entrepreneur called Chris, also located in Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh City. And yeah, we could call it kind of a startup factory in a way, right?
Hmm.
So it's the Rocket Internet model where you take, proven models in the Western world, and then you try to, yeah, launch them in emerging markets such as Vietnam.
Hmm.
But then after that, I stayed there for a few months and then got an offer to join Coder School as the first employee after fundraising. And I think that's where it really shaped me and kind of where I understood what a startup was
Hmm.
and did everything, right? Together with the CEO and founder, Charles. It was only me and him in a small office in the co-working space.
Oh, cool.
Uh, yeah, I still remember to this day, right? And we're like, okay, just kind of staring at each other. It's like, there's so much to do, and where do we
Yeah.
start?
Uh-huh.
Um, and that was, I would say, my kind of most important moment in the startup journey, I would say, right? Where it's like, okay, now we actually have venture funding, we're venture backed, we need to
Hmm.
deliver, and we need to kind of, there's so many things we need to figure out, and doing things that didn't scale, as I told you many times, right?
Yes, yes.
And trying to just, how can we solve this problem the best way possible?
Hmm.
And really, understanding the root cause of the problem and what we're trying to solve. and then doing things because there was no product then, right? It was very manual, but just proving the proof of concept was key for us.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, and then did that. Unfortunately, I got burnt out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was, I would say, a lot of factors to it, not only work-wise, but me being very young as well. I think it was 24 years, 23, 24 years old back then.
Oh, okay.
And just didn't listen to my body and thought I was unstoppable. Just, very unhealthy lifestyle, a lot of garbage food, a lot of nicotine, a lot of alcohol, a lot of work.
It
And
sounds like
it's a recipe for disaster, right?
it is, man. It is. It is.
Yeah. So yeah, and then I after that, and I got an up. I left coder school, and then got an opportunity to then co-founded my previous company, then Avian Solutions and Avian Jets, with two other guys.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and the CEO was actually the one that kind of approached me and I had the idea already.
Mm.
Uh, so he had kind of the domain expertise in the field. So essentially, Avian, what we did is a B2B SaaS for business aviation, solving a problem where how they kind of ran the business operations back then is very manual,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of things on paper, on Excel. And most importantly, it's not connected, right? So you kind of just manage your own operations, but seeing how the network effects can help the business grow and how, help them run their operations better and at the end of the day generate more revenue is something that we saw was an opportunity in the
Mm-hmm.
market and unserved. So that's kind of what we did. So did that for see here, 3.5 years, lots of ups and downs,
Mm-hmm.
as you can imagine.
Yep.
Uh, Lots of long nights, lots of you know, periods where we were kind of trying to figure things out and scratching our heads. It's like, is this really worth pushing through?
Mm-hmm.
Are we actually solving a problem here, or what are we doing? But eventually, we managed to get that kind of key customer on board.
Mm.
And that because it's a B2B and it's a very niche business, we needed that kind of initial anchor customer, right?
Right.
That built with us. So understanding their problems and building alongside with them was something that we hugely that impacted our business. We did it wrong in the beginning
Mm.
by just, having our hypothesis that this is what we need to build, not
Yep.
talking and
Mm-hmm.
then building the product, spending lots of time, lots of money. And then once we kind of launched it, they didn't use it. We were
Uh,
scratching our heads like, why? Why are they not using it?
yes.
Uh, so yeah, I that's kind of what transitions into Antler a little bit, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
how I wish that I had something like Antler when I started out my
Yeah, man.
entrepreneur journey,
Mm-hmm.
because it would have saved me a lot of, uh,
Heartache.
mistakes.
Exactly,
Uh,
man.
but everything happens for a reason, I think. So
Mm-hmm. Yep.
um, at least I can take some of those learnings that I did throughout my previous experience with startups and building something, and hopefully, mitigate that risk and so some people don't do the same thing that I did. Uh,
Now that you're sharing your story like fully, man, like for me, I understand now the pain that you through your voice, like in terms of some of the things you went through and every everything that you had said just now, you were telling us throughout the program, right? Like n
yeah.
number one mistake founders make is that they build something people don't want, right? They don't talk enough to their customers, and I can tell you for 3 times doing Antler now, that is the lesson that I've seen over and over and over again, and I've been trying to do more and more of. Yeah, I definitely hear that pain, man. So you said that you had worked with Eric before in his other company, right? His Eric is one of the partners at Antler. And how did you get recruited, I guess, back into Antler or into Antler in the first place? Yeah.
Yeah, no, good question. So it's a full circle, right? As I mentioned, kind of one of the reasons why
Mm-hmm.
how I ended up in Vietnam is through Eric.
Mm-hmm.
It was so actually, let's go back to that and how it started, right? So
Mm-hmm.
quickly, it's so we have this big kind of business art news outlet in Sweden, and I remember this back in 2016. They had this article about like 40 top 40 entrepreneurs under 40
Mm-hmm.
outside of Sweden, but are Swedes.
Mm-hmm.
And Eric was on that list, right? I'm like, great, oh, cool. Like a Swedish blonde guy in Vietnam,
Yeah.
building a tech startup. That's
Pretty
interesting.
cool.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of what raised my eyebrows, right? And then I reached, um, actually, my sister reached out to him.
Oh,
And then she went to Vietnam and then she had a coffee with him. And then actually she pimped me out. She was like, hey, I have a little brother. Do you need
nice, man. Nice. Nice.
And then she came home to Sweden and is like, hey, I met this guy. You need to talk to him. I'm like, "Okay, great. And this was the moment in my life when I was a little bit lost, right? I didn't know what to do. Um, should I go back to school or should I,
Mm-hmm.
start my business? So a little bit lost, right? So this kind of
Mm-hmm.
came in the perfect time and also give me a good kind of time to connect with my roots as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being Vietnamese, but not lived there, just kind of gone to Vietnam for vacation with my parents.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, that's kind of how the journey started, right? And then
Yeah.
internship, and then closed down shop, and then I went on and did other things. But during that time, I still kept in touch with Eric,
Yeah.
as on a personal level and as friends. So we used to hang out a lot.
Yeah.
You know, go to cafes. Just him as well being like as a mentor to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course we both love racing, as you know.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Partying connected us a lot, so we did that
Mm-hmm.
quite a lot. And then when he got appointed as partner at Antler, I remember this because we were he just signed, and then we went out to celebrate
Uh,
actually, and that's when he asked me if I wanted to join as well. Uh, and this was a good time because I was doing the startup for, yeah, what was it,
mm-hmm.
3.5 years now? And yeah, I just felt that it was time for me to kind of do something else.
Yeah.
And Antler was, something that was very interesting.
Yeah.
Being able to contribute to the Vietnamese ecosystem economy,
Mm-hmm.
but also get in a foot into VC as well, right?
Yeah.
Because now I've been on the startup side. Uh, would love to, also get some insights and experience on the other side as well.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so that was kind of how I ended up at Antler.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I did not know that story at all. I didn't know you guys knew each other like from beforehand. I thought, it was just a coincidence. Potentially you two Swedes were working at Antler. It was
Yeah,
crazy, like Antler is founded by two Norwegian guys, right? Is it UC and Magnus, right? Magnus is another Norwegian guy.
it's actually a few. Let me
Okay.
see. I think it's 3 or 4 Norwegians and one Finnish. So I think there's like 5 founders.
Interesting, man. And it's a Singaporean company officially, right? Singaporean company?
Yeah, it's first office in Singapore, and a lot of them are based in Singapore. Yeah.
So cool, man. So cool. Yeah, as you know, I did the cohort recently here in Japan, and we did a demo day recently, and I got to actually finally meet Magnus. I never met him before, so he came to the demo day. Yeah, yeah, he was really cool guy, really cool. Obviously, Antler Vietnam was really influential on me. I don't know if I told you this story, but I had actually quit my job working for the Vietnamese military, teaching them English, and I was getting paid like 4 grand a month in Vietnam, which is that's a nice salary. You know what I
That's
mean?
a nice salary in
It
Vietnam,
is
man.
in Vietnam, but I just had this urge to follow my dream, right? And Antler it seemed like something that was right up my alley because I was watching a lot of YC videos on YouTube and I was like, yo, I wish I can get in there and learn how to build a startup because I've always wanted to be a founder, right? So it was really at the right time. Which cohort did you start in? Did you start in the first cohort or in somewhere in between? Yeah.
I've been with Antler Vietnam since day one.
Since day one. Okay.
Well, yeah, almost. Yeah, Eric started like in June, and then I started in July. So yeah, pretty much
Okay.
day one.
Nice, nice, man. So let's talk about how the program changed. I think when you recently just left Antler, right? So that's VN7, right? Seven cohorts?
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So walk me through, I guess, when the cohort or when the Antler program started in Vietnam until when you left. How has it evolved since then?
I think this is the great thing with Antler and also working for, a global company that has been doing things for, I wouldn't say Antler's still a young company, right?
Hmm.
Founded in 2018, and then we opened up the office in Vietnam 2021.
Mm,
Uh, so in Vietnam, I think at that time was the 14th or 15th location,
mm,
and now it's like 30 plus. But yeah, so that means that they've been running the program for some time, and
yeah,
there's been a playbook, and they try things. So it helped us as well, right? Kind of setting up the operations in Vietnam. Of course, we need to translate that into a local context, right? You cannot just copy and paste things.
right.
Um, but we didn't know what would work. So I would say what the biggest change has been in if I remember correctly, like VN1 or VN2, there was a lot of master classes. Like we did a lot of master classes, right?
Right.
Because we didn't know what would work, and
Hmm.
like, better to do too much, but that was the philosophy at least.
Hmm.
Have a lot of content rather than too little.
Hmm.
Um, but then I think the biggest change is just how do we translate that into actual more successes, like
Hmm.
into at IC and post
Yep.
IC as
Hmm.
well. So IC's investment committee.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, it's I think VN1 and VN2 had definitely like 20 plus master classes,
Oh, wow.
100%.
Wow, wow.
Uh,
That's a lot.
and then it has slowly, been cut down a little bit.
Mm,
Uh, and this is where the validation comes back and talk to your customers, right? Same
hmm.
thing here at Antler. Every time, every cohort, we talk to the founders and kind of on saw trying to pinpoint, okay, is this masterclass going to ultimately translate into success at IC?
Right.
If the answer is no, then let's skip it. And then that time can be used towards more better things such as going out, talk to customers or coaching sessions or whatever it could be, right?
Hmm.
Uh, so I don't know how many, don't quote me on this, but I think for sure, like it's less than 15 masterclasses now
Okay. I see.
before,
I see.
but still keeping the kind of core things of
Yeah.
a thing, like the design thinking and
That was my
idea.
favorite one. That was my favorite one.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
same here,
design
man.
thing.
Same
Yeah.
here.
Such a good one. I love that one, and then the presenting effectively one. That what's it called? That YouTube video that was shown during that master class. I
The
use
TED
sometimes.
Talk.
Yeah, that one. So good, man. I
Yeah.
use that sometimes in my presentation workshops that I do because it's so effective, you know? But yeah, no, I learned a lot from those workshops, and I learned a lot from those master classes that you guys put on. I think that founders, especially first-time founders like me, really need that. We really need to learn how to do the market size calculations, for example, how to validate the different ways of validating with customers. Because it's easy to say, yeah, go out and talk to your customers, but we don't know necessarily what types of ways to do that that are available to us, right? And I think that it's highly, highly valuable, those types of things that you put on. And, another thing that I loved so much was that we had so many great speakers come in and come give talks. Can you talk to a little bit about, I guess, some of the types of speakers that were brought into Antler? Yeah.
Absolutely. This is yeah, I think the best way, right? Because it's one thing for us as Antler, or not us, I'm not working there anymore, but as Antler, right?
Mm-hmm.
To say, hey, you should think about this, you should do that, right? Um, but it's always great to have like external speakers and people come in and also share their stories, especially like people that entrepreneurs that have built and failed.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and done a lot of mistakes can kind of hear their stories. It's very
Mm-hmm.
inspirational as well. Um, but also other VCs in the space. So
Mm-hmm.
Antler's focus on pre-seed, right? And is very, very early, just investing into pretty much a team and a pitch deck,
Mm-hmm.
but also inviting other, VCs in the seed stage or, pre-A or A come in as well to share what they are looking at when they are, evaluating and doing due diligence on a startup. So it's not only, hey, listen to us as Antler, this is what we're looking for, but also having externally kind of validate that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but personally, I love the external speaker sessions, especially kind of the founder stories that
Mm-hmm.
are going, really, really deep into kind of how, we had um, have so many from across the cohorts. I don't remember which one we had for you, but there's so many good of them, right? That we
Yeah.
can say, um, yeah, like we had a few like Sal from Lixibox come in
Mm-hmm.
and share
Mm-hmm.
her story. Um, we had Charles from Coder School,
Yep.
obviously, as well, come in and share his story,
Really cool
uh,
guy. Yeah.
and also did a master class as well.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so there's so many, and I think it's we're lucky to have them come in and share, but I think that's also part of kind of this entrepreneurial spirit. And entrepreneurs themselves, like we want to help and empower other people. So if we can help, if what I learned, if I can share that and hopefully it sticks, so you don't
Yep.
make the same mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm very happy.
Yep.
Uh, feel kind of fulfilled in a way.
Absolutely, man. It's like learning from someone else's 10,000 hours or something like that, right? That's what they say when you read books. It's like somebody has gone through all that time and putting all that experience into paper and all those pages, right? Learn from their mistakes so you don't make the same. And I found so much value from all those founders that came in and shared their stories, right? It was really, really valuable, man. So in terms of entrepreneurial, like, I guess, personalities, right? What are some of the personalities that you've come across that have been the most successful throughout the program?
Good question. I wouldn't say there's one or specific traits, right? But I think there's a common denominator for a lot of the founders that I've
Hmm.
seen is the passion needs to be there,
Hmm.
right? The passion, and it kind of translate into the grit, right? You
Hmm.
have the passion and the perseverance to push through,
Yeah.
uh, and to do something that you really, really care about. So the trait that I've seen from founders that have been succeeding is obviously the you need to know the market you're building in, right?
Yeah.
Uh, but also this is the classic one, like don't take no for an answer.
Hmm.
Uh, but execution is always going to be key. And I
Hmm.
think that's what's, if we're looking at the portfolio companies that Antler has been, if we're talking specifically to Vietnam now,
Hmm.
that's where I had the most visibility. And the founders that been able to raise
Hmm.
uh, afterwards and gain traction, I would say the biggest common nominator there is execution,
Hmm.
right? It's just doing and listening to the feedback of from the customers, right? And knowing where to go. Because if we put it this way, you're great at executing and getting stuff done and shipping products, right? And getting out to the customers. But if you're not strategic enough as well to, okay, where should I, and take that feedback, and it's
Right.
like, should we go? Then you're just, even though you're going 100K an hour super fast towards the an unknown goal, it's still going to be unknown.
Yeah.
So knowing when to pivot, I think as well is another thing. So it's a combination of being able to execute fast, but also kind of listening to the kind of the feedback and the validation from the market, I would say, are a
Yeah.
few things.
Yeah. There was a lot of interesting stories that we had in our cohorts where people had the same idea and were not putting back the feedback. They were not putting the feedback into place many, many times. Because in Vietnam, at least, not in Japan. In Japan, pitching was optional, by the way, which is completely different from what we did in Vietnam. But in Vietnam, we pitched every single week and got feedback from both you and Eric, which I found extremely useful. And you guys actually required every founder to pitch each week, which was awesome because not only could we as founders see what other people are building and like maybe see if we're interested in joining their teams, especially in the first couple of weeks, but people get pitch practice. I'm a pitch coach now. I do pitch coaching because of all the practice that I got in Antler. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, it's highly valuable, but a lot of times that people were pitching and getting feedback, it seemed like they were very stubborn and that each week there wasn't much progress, right? Why do you think some people, they might have like this passion, but they don't listen to feedback? Why do you think that is?
On that note, actually, I'm glad to hear that the drilling is coming to good use.
It is. It is. I
Um,
love it. Yeah.
Great question. I think it's just a personal trait, right? Because that
Yeah.
ultimately comes down to execution.
Uh,
It's like, why are you not taking in the feedback? And if it, let's say, I I think you remember this, and I say this a lot, right? In just not coaching sessions, but also in this pitch. If you don't agree with me and you think I'm wrong, prove me wrong.
hmm hmm
So, you know, that's the thing. It's like bring data to back up your claims.
mm
If you're just gonna stand there and be stubborn about it without having any data to back up your claims or your arguments, then we're just standing still, right?
Right.
So that's something that okay, I love founders that I I give them very not harsh but direct feedback,
Right.
and then they come back to me. It's like, hey, I proved you wrong, right?
Hmm
Uh, One person that did that, and I remember is Jake from VUCAR and
Okay.
some, and I was like, damn, this
Okay.
guy, yeah, great, yeah. I was like, I honest mistake, right? It's like, yeah, that's great. I'm not an expert in everything, right? This
hmm
is just also my hypothesis, but you prove me wrong, and then you were right. So let's roll with that, right? But
hmm
we need that data to back it up,
Right.
and that's kind of also purpose of kind of the coaching sessions as well, right? To kind of not you should not listen to me, but we are challenging each other and helping
hmm
each other become better, right?
Yep. hmm
Uh, so that was the purpose of it. But yeah, I think I hope that kind of answered your question. I don't know. I think this stubbornness of
No, yeah, absolutely, man. But it kind of goes on the line of like passion, right? Because somebody's super passionate about something, they might be blinded by outside like feedback, or they might not be able to see clearly. They might be like, no, 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 this is it, this is it, this is it. But I think there needs to be a balance, right? And be able to be open about, you know, how what they could be missing, right? In terms of that. And that's what you guys come in. And I found that very useful. But I feel that founders do need some direction. And right now, I've been ever since obviously VN 3 and 4 and now JP3, I've been trying to build on my own. And it is so hard, man. It is so, so hard because I have to learn marketing, right? I have to learn finance. I have to learn like all these skills on my own as the CEO of the company, right? So I guess what advice do you have for founders that are in a similar position to me in terms of seeking that guidance? Because, you could read all the books in the world, you could watch all the YouTube videos, but at the end of the day, not everyone has the same opportunities that I had to get into Antler or other accelerators, right? So I guess what would you give, like what advice would you give to people in that situation?
I think we live in an era in a world right now where like you said, all the information is kind of out there, right? So on the internet, you can find it out there.
Mhm,
You said yourself you got into entrepreneurship by watching these YC videos, and
mhm,
they're honestly they're really great.
mhm,
But it's in theory, right? And then you need to kind of put that into practice. So how do you do that? And I think right now there's so many communities out there and events out there, right?
mhm,
Kind of with the topic of entrepreneurship or startups. And I would say by joining a community, something like you are doing right now in Japan, I think is great, right?
mhm,
Having these events
Mm-hmm.
coming up for people that wants to build. I think that's the best way to just talk to other people
Mm-hmm.
and doing it together because it's a very lonely journey.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said yourself, you're the chief everything officer right now. You're doing
Yes.
everything, marketing, operations, finance, right? You have to figure it out by yourself. Um, but yeah, I'm not saying that other people would help you with that, but at least having some, where you're stuck sometimes in kind of questions. Oh, how would I do if I was in this position, or what should I do now? Um, then having some other people that maybe have done it before, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just talk to them. Hey, I'm having this issue right now. I'm having this problem. I don't know. I'm thinking about doing X, A, B, or C. What do you think, right? Just to kind of open up your thought process a little bit and sharing. I think that is something that I would do personally
Yep.
if I would start something today, as an example. I
Mm-hmm.
would just speak with everybody, including you,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just to because you could bring some perspectives that I'm not aware about. And like you said yourself, if you're passionate about something, you might be just tunnel vision
Mm-hmm.
and miss out on, some critical, you know, holes in the plan, right? So that's what I would do. Just kind of, yeah, speak with everybody and kind of the mom test, right? Not your family. They will say
Right,
that
right.
about it, but actually set the tone. Like, hey, Lee, I want you to be brutal or honest with me about this, right?
Yeah.
Uh, do not sugarcoat it. I can take it. I just want to hear your feedback on what you think. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I would
Absolutely.
do. Also go
Absolutely.
out there with other people.
Mm-hmm. No, it's super good advice, man. That brings us to like kind of the next thing I want to talk about is co-founders.
Mm,
I remember a story that you had said about your first startup and how you kind of also ended that kind of relationship because you had primarily worked with your co-founder online, but then when you met in person, it was a different dynamic. Was that right? Can you tell a little bit about that story?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, that was also another thing. I think the rookie mistake that I did is one is not aligning right on where we wanted to go, and also asking each other kind of the tough questions, right? In
Hmm.
terms of how much of a personal runway do you have,
Uh,
right? Now you need to talk about shit, and I need to open up my savings account, right? It's
yep,
like,
yep.
uh, and but you need to do that.
Hmm.
You really, really need to do that because if we're not able to raise funds in the next 12 months, will you be able to survive,
Hmm.
right? Uh, and what happens after those 12 months? Do you need to find a job? Like
Hmm.
then one co-founder is down, maybe still involved, but not as actively anymore, right? So those are a lot of things, mistake that I did there. Family is also another thing. I'm not discriminating here, but at least you should know about it, right? We're co-founders. We're in this
Yes.
business together. So do you have plans to have kids
Hmm.
in the near future? Because that will for sure, change the dynamic as well. Because yeah, if you have kids, that means more obligations, more responsibility, and that means you need to have that kind of um, cushion and
Hmm.
cash flow coming in on a monthly basis to take care of your family, which
Hmm.
is understandable. But yeah, if you don't have enough savings, right, that's one. So, but I would say yeah, not asking each, I just gave an example there, but yeah, not asking each other the tough questions and the upfront is something is very key. But also aligning of what do we want, right,
Yep.
out of business. Do we want to slowly build this business, right, to become profitable, and then off that we'll pay ourselves dividends towards the end of the year, right? Something
Hmm.
like that. What kind of investors should we bring in? More strategic investors such as angels,
Hmm.
families and friends, or should we go all out and go, venture,
Right.
VC money instead? If we're going that route, then we need to have the bigger market size and have, exponential growth
Hmm.
and the growth as a VC that a VCs are looking for. I think that's where kind of it didn't align for me, and I didn't know that upfront. It's just like, yeah, let's build a startup together, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Uh, but yeah, I wanted a different trajectory of the business, and I wanted to build a different way. Um, and my co-founders wanted to go a different direction as well. So yeah, that's pretty much a deal breaker, right? So
Yeah.
a little bit. So yeah, and that's what I try to say during Antler and the program is like you need to align on these things. You need to on a vision of the company, what you want personally out of it, and then also number two, asking each other these hard questions.
Yeah, I remember the 50 co-founder questions and the various Excel spreadsheets we had to fill out every time we changed teams in order to make sure we were all aligned. And I remember having those equity discussions, especially. I had some
Yeah.
very interesting discussions with some former founders as well about the equity split. Well, in your mind, what is an ideal equity split between the founders, irrespective of their, I guess, positions in the company?
I would always say, let's say if you're starting out from zero, right? You have nothing, then 50-50.
Yeah.
Honestly. But let's say if I've worked on something right now, right, for 6 months,
Hmm.
as an example, I put some of my own money into it, I put my time into it to validate it or
Hmm.
whatnot, and
Hmm.
now I feel that I need a co-founder. If I approach you as an example, Lee, then I would say, hey, I would paint out the picture, right? Say, hey,
Hmm.
man, I put some time into this already. I've validated it, right, somewhat, and then
Hmm.
invested some money and some time. But I would love to have you as a co-founder. But yeah, because I've done some groundwork and kind of de-risked it a little bit already, I
Mm.
feel I should have a little bit more. Uh,
Mm. Okay.
then, but if we're like, hey man, let's start something together, and I haven't put anything into it, 50-50 is what it should be, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. I think that split is very important to keep everyone motivated, right? To make sure, especially if it's from zero. We need to be motivated to keep working on this for the next 10 years. I remember, I'll just tell a quick story. One of the teams that I was on in Antler, we were talking about equity, and there's like four co-founders or something. And then like I was coming on a little bit later, and one of the founders was like, he had been working on it and put some money, he had put some money in it himself. And he was like, I'm gonna let you two, the two of us that were on last, split 20%. So 10, 10, and then like I don't know, it was like 60 or something. I was like, that's not enough. I mean, come on, you know? So it kind of made the relationship afterwards seem a little awkward. So I think it's a conversation you must have at the beginning, but also be fair from the beginning, you know? And just be honest with each other, I think is super important. Do you think that you could be a wildly successful company without a co-founder?
You can. Yeah, we have seen proof that you can. There are companies like Amazon,
Mm,
right?
yeah,
Jeff Bezos, right? The
yeah,
biggest companies out there, and he's he's alone. So but it's
yeah.
much harder to build something by yourself, right? If we you remember the graph of we had in the very early days, actually.
Hmm.
Uh, but in terms of how many companies succeed and kind of one founder, two founders, and three founders, there's companies that are greatly successful as a solo founder. But if we're looking just at
Yeah.
the data that we work with, then your chances of success are much higher if it's a team of two or three.
Mm,
So I'm not
yeah.
saying it's impossible, but it's much harder. And usually I would say it's for the second or third time founders.
Yeah, once you've done it, it's kind of like it's easy. You can start over something, again, you've already gone through all those troubling times by yourself and you kind of know what to do. Just like kids, if you have a kid, the second one's usually the easiest, right? So,
Yeah.
exactly, man. I have a question for you with regards to obviously Vietnam. do you continue to stay in Vietnam when obviously Europe has a much more, advanced ecosystem and things like that? Why Vietnam?
Good question. I'm very bullish on Vietnam personally. And we've seen that you stayed in Vietnam yourself,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
You've seen kind of just the drive in the people
Hmm.
of wanting to do something and change, right?
Hmm.
So I just love that personally, but also just looking at the economy and what's going on right now. There's so much room for growth.
Hmm.
Just seeing looking back in the trajectory of the development of Vietnam has been crazy, right, for the past few decades.
Hmm.
So I'm very bullish on the economy of Vietnam and the opportunities there, and seeing how kind of the ecosystem has evolved over the past years
Yeah.
has been amazing to see, right? And I want to be part of that as a wave.
Yeah.
So it's a combination of, yeah, I see a lot of opportunities, a lot of problems that can be solved, and a lot of
Hmm.
things that can be improved and can be built out of Vietnam. The talent is great, right? And but also personally, I just feel Vietnam. I just feel at home there, right? Although
Yeah.
I was born and raised in Sweden. Um, I would say Europe, yeah, but I would say Europe has been stagnant in my own opinion for the past couple of years and decades, right?
Hmm.
There's definitely innovation going on, absolutely, but uh, the not as a rapid pace as in Vietnam, and
Hmm.
not only Vietnam. Let's say Southeast Asia in general
Right.
as an economy.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so that's why let's say now I spent almost 2 months in Sweden, um, and it just feels that it's a time capsule, honestly.
Oh, really? Oh,
A little
jeez.
bit, yeah. Of course, there's some things here and there, but yeah, I bet you when I go back to Vietnam now after being away for 2 months, I would probably just like, wow, what have I missed?
No, honestly, this will be like five or six new buildings you haven't even heard about or something like that, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
I got there in 2017 and it changed so rapidly since I got there as well. So I definitely think that Vietnam is on the rise, especially with what's going on in the US now, with everything going on over there. I think more attention is going to be given to Vietnam from other countries, hopefully. And I think that Vietnamese people are ready for it. I see like so many great founders that I've met, and so much venture capital is going into Vietnam as well, right? You were part of the VC sphere. Like, what are some of the, I guess, things you've heard with regards to why they're so interested in investing in Vietnam?
there's a lot of eyes on Vietnam, obviously, as you mentioned, a few reasons with what's going on with China and the
Hmm.
US.
Hmm.
But we've seen kind of this shift actually happen for the past couple of years already of more kind of the manufacturing. Vietnam is becoming and has been a manufacturing powerhouse, actually.
Hmm.
Lots of brands behind China, of course,
Hmm.
but more and more coming to Vietnam. And also we're seeing not just, manufacturing in terms of clothes and garments,
Hmm.
shoes or so, but also, more high tech, right?
Yep.
So, um, what is it, Tencent? I remember
Maybe.
the no, Foxconn, right? The ones
Uh,
that
yep.
are manufacturing a lot of Apple products, set
Mm,
up huge shops, right, in Vietnam. LG and Samsung are continuing to invest more into factories in Vietnam as well.
mm,
Um, but yeah, going back to your question more of like there's a lot of eyes on Vietnam, right? And capital getting, ready to be deployed into the market. I think as well, a lot of people are very bullish on what's the opportunities there, right?
yep.
Uh, Growing like the young population, the high internet penetration,
Hmm.
uh, uh, skilled workers as well, right?
Hmm.
And just a growing economy in general. So
Yeah.
I think there's so many things, right, pointed towards it, and also different markets in Southeast Asia are not performing that well.
Nope.
for some reasons. And then the capital is there, right? It's just that now they need to deploy it. If you're a VC, you kind of need to deploy
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Yeah. Hmm.
So more eyes are going from other markets in Southeast Asia
Hmm.
and targeting Vietnam instead.
Cannot
Uh,
cannot wait to see Vietnam, get to the level where it should be. You know what I mean? Like that I've heard recently like Vietnam is going to be the next Japan in the sense of like innovation and like more venture capital and money coming into the country, which will be really exciting. And yeah, I hope everyone's standard of living gets risen as well there.
I'm very bullish on it. Like we were talking about the tiger economies, right? So we're
Mm,
having South Korea and Taiwan as the most recent ones, I think. And Vietnam is probably the next, what people are thinking is the next on the list.
hmm.
Uh, and yeah, let's hope for it. And I really want trying to work on it to be part of that wave.
Oh, speaking of what you're working on, I know that you have recently left Antler. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're going to do now?
I cannot.
Oh,
It will be announced in the near future.
okay.
But
Interesting.
yeah, I cannot disclose that yet. But yeah, I'm very excited. The only thing that I can say is that it's very different from what I've been doing before.
Mm,
Um, I'm not starting my own business yet.
mm.
This is I'm working. Yeah, I won't say anything more.
Okay, I don't want to get you in trouble. That's good, man. A little tension. I like it. I like it. I can't wait to see what you're building next or what you're going to get into next. Hopefully, it's helping more people, reach their dreams like me. Ever since I left my job, I haven't worked for anyone since. I have been doing my own thing, trying to figure out for the past couple of years, but it's all thanks to you guys at Antler. It's all thanks to, especially you, for taking the time to helping me, I guess, figure out where I need to go in terms of things and like what the right steps I need to do. The biggest thing I took from all three cohorts at Antler, especially, is never, ever, ever give up on talking to your customers, right? You just need to fully understand the problem, their customer, and then the solution will come later. Cool, man. So we have a closing tradition on this podcast where the last guest has left a question for you, and you'll leave a question for the next guest. So I'm going to read the question for you now. If you die tomorrow, do you think you'll go to heaven and why?
Oh, this is from Josh. If I die tomorrow, do I think I'll go to heaven and why?
Yes.
I hope so. No, but I do think yeah, I'll go to heaven. Um, uh, most I hope so at least.
Okay.
And why is because yeah, I think I've been, you know, of course, okay, let's rewind a little bit. Before, right, I always wanted as a young buck, you wanted to, yeah, just hustle and make money or whatnot. But that throughout my 20s and entering into my 30s, that has been shifting, you know, a lot from
Hmm.
just making money to actually, yeah, I want to have impact
Hmm.
by helping people. So, and hopefully I did that during Antler, right? Investing into companies and helping people and entrepreneurs like yourself.
Hmm.
Um, and what I'm doing now as well is also helping people in a different way. But
Mm.
yeah, so I truly hope so, and I truly hope that I've been having some great impacts on some people in life, and because of that, I think that I will end up in heaven.
Nice. That's good. I think Josh would also agree that you've helped him a lot, especially he was joking about how long he would like keep you for afterwards. You know what I mean? He was like,
Yes,
yes.
I've always been joking back that I'll send him an invoice.
Exactly. Charge him by hour. Exactly.
Yeah.
So funny. They were hustling like crazy, man. It was so cool to see their energy, and yeah, the feedback that you gave them was really valuable. But now it's your turn, man. What
My
question do
turn.
you have for the next guest? Yes.
Okay. Do you have a next guest lined up, by the way?
Oh, I have two next
Okay,
guests. Yes.
great. Okay. If your life were a movie, what title would it be?
Oh, that's a good one. I like it. I like it a lot. That's a great one. I have to think about that for myself too. That's a great question. Cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate the question. I appreciate your time, Ang. It's always a pleasure chatting with you. When are you gonna come to Japan, man? I'm waiting on that red t-shirt.
Yeah, man. I actually did go to Japan, but I couldn't squeeze you in. Yeah, it's
Oh,
different work.
slighted, man.
But
Feel slighted.
but I'll probably be back. Um, yeah, soon. I wouldn't be surprised if I'll be there later this year.
Dude,
I'll let you know.
you missed the Tokyo Auto Salon. It was so good, man.
I
So
know, man.
good. It was so
I
good.
know. Next time.
Next time, next time. Well, cool,
Next
man. Let
time.
me know next time you're in Japan. I'd love to, introduce you to my community here. I'm trying to build the Yokohama community here. I'm trying to, network with all as many founders as I can and be helpful myself. So I'm taking, a little influence from you, and hopefully we can impact the world together. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Ang. Appreciate you.
Thanks, man.
Yes.
Appreciate it. Take
Thank
care.
you. Yeah. That's a wrap for today's episode of the Product Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Spotify, or leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps the channel grow. And if you want to share your PM stories, challenges, struggles, or insights with us on a future episode, please get in touch with us on LinkedIn. We'd love to have you on and keep this conversation going. Until next time, happy building, everyone.